Start by giving a bit of an overview to this topic because I don't know if everybody is familiar here with nighttime economy. Probably a bit, I would say. First things first. Before we go into a conversation, Clemens, we agreed that I give a bit of an overview. So, starting with these three gentlemen, you're probably familiar with David Hasselhoff. Some people say he's an actor, some people say he's a singer, some people say they're both or nothing. But with David Hasselhoff, I had something in common because he helped me to create attention and set a spotlight on the gentrification of clubs in Berlin. And we organized a protest. He joined the protest. We had 10,000 people on the street. And we were discussing about who owns the city and what do we want to do in our city in the future. And are we able to also continue to have a club scene in Berlin beyond the development that the city has. Mick Jagger reached out to me and wanted to have a party after his big concert in the stadium, and he chose a very specific club, Kit Kat, and I took him there. We had a good night, and when we exited the club, there was journalists, and it was a big news suddenly. And Elon Musk, I also met him in Berlin, and at night he chose to go out. I wasn't aware of it, but actually he didn't make it to Berghain. It was a big news, by the way. So the question is, if the richest man in the world cannot buy his way into a club, there must be something about this nightlife. And everybody has a different perception about the night. What do you understand when you hear nighttime economy? So I took some pictures of Munich, and maybe you celebrated in one of these spaces, came together, you know, in a small club or bar, in a night market, maybe in a Biergarten or Oktoberfest, or in a live concert, live DJ set somewhere. So this is all part of the nighttime economy, but it is actually much more. It's a place to convene, it's a place to communicate, to celebrate, and to regenerate. And for me personally, it's also about reflecting and recharging, because during the day you have to function, you have your role, and at night you kind of loosen up and you get to know people you maybe wouldn't meet during the day. And so one important thing that people misunderstand when they think about nighttime economy, it's not just the dance floor and the clubbing. It is something that is happening between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. And it includes everything that comes with it. It is retail, it's food, it's culture, it's businesses. People talk about 24-hour cities, so it also connects to public transportation, safety at night, and all these topics led that cities now taking this topic more and more serious. And so there are more than 100 cities in the world that have a dedicated nighttime governance structure to make sure that the night is also treated as it needs to be. And this is a small announcement. We're going to publish next week in Davos the first global nighttime economy report, the ENTER report, where we have a global view on the night. And you will see that roughly 45% of the GDP is connected to nighttime economy, that 1 out of 10 people in the world, in cities like London, it's even 1 out of 4 people are employed by the nighttime economy. But in this report, we're trying to do it more in a magazine style and explain a bit and talk about the night and why it is important and crucial. And I give you 5 important reasons why you have to look at the night. First of all, inner cities are changing rapidly. So the demand for retail spaces, for commercial spaces is going down, and we have to rethink how can we bring culture back into the city? How can we bring frequency back to the city centers? And this is something the night can contribute to. We just published a study about how important what is the impact of the night when it comes to attracting talent and retaining talent. In Berlin, it's 2.8 billion financial impact that the city's nightlife has on attraction of tech talent engineers that are relocating to the city. or retain and not leaving the city. In a global perspective, we also look into climate change. And while cities are heating up during the day, you see that cultural events are shifting towards the night, construction sites are being pushed to the night. In just a few weeks ago in the summertime, in Barcelona was announced that a street worker who was cleaning the street was actually dying on a heat stroke, and now the city rethinks if they have to push all the cleaning services to the night in sometime in summer. So the night needs to be governed properly, and that's something we are looking into. And another important topic is the topic of well-being. Young people, we hear all over the topic of loneliness crisis. So we also have to have those spaces where people connect and be human again, and not just only connect through digitalization. And it also comes to this whole topic of polarization in our society, where we see that we need also democracy places where we come together and discuss things. So if you're interested in the report, here's the QR code, you can download it, or I think you can register here and you will get it sent, because the World Economic Forum is very strict when we're going to publish it. But you will going to be one of the first ones that can actually have a look at it. So here, also Clemens, this is kind of an overview of what we define as nighttime governance. So it is about the health, it's about the communities and neighborhoods, tourism, laws and policies. There are a lot of things to talk about, and it's really difficult for a city to look into the nighttime economy because cities think in silos. If you're thinking in different departments, the night is not making it easy for you because you have to work collaboratively, and that is something that cities really struggle with, to really connect those different departments and look into the night as a whole. And when some people ask us, what actually creates a vibrant city? What is that creates the vibe of the city? We always come to this conclusion that it's actually three different dimensions. It's the community. You need to have creative people that are actually running the night, that are bringing art to stages, that are curating and cultivating spaces. But you also have to have a space that is affordable and accessible, because if you want to have experiences that are beyond mainstream, if you want to see new art, new sound coming on stage, you also have to have space where you can fail also, where you can take a risk and experiment. And finally, you have to have the right policy framework. So it comes to transportation, funding, laws and policies. All these kind of things are part of the policy framework. And when we look into the night, for us, the night is always centered in culture. Music, performing art, visual art, music, culinary art. This is the center, what makes you as a city unique and special. And then you have different types of venues that represent this. In some of those venues you create the art, in some of the venues you present it. Some are more commercial and some are more cultural. And then you have to have the right mix in your city that gives you that kind of experience that we all want to experience. And coming more to the end, this nighttime advocacy is a global movement. My business partner and I, my business partner was the night mayor of Amsterdam. We together work now with our small team and work with different cities, just consulting the mayor of London currently. And a lot of cities have done already a lot of innovation and policy changes, such as Toronto. They did a completely review of their policies at night. The city of Sydney changed with their zoning law a lot, because before that one complaint can basically just shut down a venue. Now they call it the eyes wide open rule, which basically says one complaint is not enough to shut down a venue. And Australia or New South Wales even has a minister for nightlife, which is quite impressive. And then finally also to look into Berlin. Berlin installed already 6 years ago a so-called soundproofing fund, which actually supports small grassroots venues to install soundproofing. If you have problems with your neighbors, the city helps you to do sound isolations and supports you with innovative technology. And because Munich is thriving right now, we invited young creators, promoters, people who are running venues or just around in the night to a night camp tonight. It's happening together with DLD at Legal Club, and we already have about 100 registrations. So we're really looking forward to have these discussions about nightlife tonight at Legal. So, Clemens, how wild does Munich get after dark?
In my wishes, it would be much more wilder than it is actually. I started my nightlife when I was 14, maybe a bit illegal back then, but it was in the early 90s, so no one did really care. Some of you may remember the old airport site in Munich, the Flughafen and all the institutions. Wolfgang Noeth was one of the creators of the old airport when it was moving from Riem to Erding. And that was the beginning of a really vibrant era of nightlife in Munich, which I was personally adoring. I grew up with that. And you were talking about the nighttime economy. It was economy for me too, because I was 2 years as a doorman, working as a doorman in Munich in the late school times and in the early study times, earning my money with that. And
you've seen a lot, I guess.
I've seen a lot of people, and you get to know people. You get to know the different kind of people, and the so-called sentence, some of you may remember from your early club times, you don't get in that club tonight, your face doesn't fit into the club tonight. That's some saying. If you receive that, that's completely another thing than if you say that to someone really wishing to, like Berghain and Elon Musk, getting into that club. And from that time, I have some special rememberings and some really happy times I lived in these clubs in my youth. And so for that reason, I like the nightlife. I still go into some clubs in Munich back then for business purpose when I was acting as the economic minister in Munich, but also as a private person, because I love the feeling, young people, old people, all mingling together, sound just relaxing and having a good time. And my aim is to bring back some of these vibes I experienced in my youth to Munich. Again, the place we are in here, for those who don't know Munich, or close by, was the so-called Werksviertel. Now it's also called Werksviertel, but some 30 years ago back, it was really a place like the old Flughafen. It was ancient industrial halls. Some of them still exist, some of them are torn down. And in those ancient industrial halls, you had everything from techno to, my thing is funk and souls, 80s, that's my music. But you could just pop around the another door, have another musical style, music life, and it was some kind of untidy, it was wild, it was crazy, and it didn't have all the problems you mentioned in one of your last slides. I was really thinking about how does Sydney, how do other cities in the world think about the nightlife? They think in solutions. In Berlin, it's typical for Germany. They think in problems. Is it too loud for the neighbors? I was the chief of the Oktoberfest for 6 years' time, and I had the same issues. Oktoberfest is too loud for the neighboring people, but I always ask them, have you moved in after the Oktoberfest had begun? Because the Oktoberfest is about 200 and something years old, or have you moved into that place when it still existed? And so the idea, like I saw in your slide, of telling people, you move in a quarter where there's a vibrant life, you adore that life, that's the reason why you move into that quarter, so accept it once it gets louder. I just heard that some of you attended the party last night at Bayerischer Hof. I was there 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was astonishing loud, and the thought about all the hotel guests who were in the hotel paying a bunch of money.
I didn't hear it. I'm in the 5th floor.
Okay, that's a
Clemens,
cute decision.
I also wanted to point out this book, which documents actually the vibrant nights of the past decades of Munich, which is really beautiful. But let's talk a bit about the future of Munich, because one of the key elements that I pointed out in this, what makes the city vibrant, is affordable and accessible space. And I'm saying this because I think it needs to be really in a discussion in our society together with the real estate industry to understand that it's not only about making the most profitable project, it's also about making it that it's accessible for people in the community. So what would be a solution, or how do you see the future of the city? Because Munich is a very tough place when it comes to the real estate market.
The real estate market is mostly a market of private owners, not of institutional owners. If you look at that place, that's a private one, that's no institutional one. If you look at the Werksviertel, that's a single family who owns that place. So you don't talk to worldwide entities and some equity firms, you talk to people. And the Werksviertel has made a development over 30 years. It took 30 years from reconstructing it from a factory for food, potatoes actually, to designing it into a new kind of office space. 30 years. In that 30 years time, you had the vibrant part of Munich which was dedicated to nightlife. And why can't we redo that? Because there's a lot of room in Munich which needs to be redeveloped, where there is buildings, where there is sufficient buildings for a nightlife. Maybe not for office use, maybe not for use for a living area, but it's sufficient for making it as a nightlife area. Why don't we do that? It needs the political will, and there is always someone who says no to that. There's always someone who says there is some difficulties, but to overcome these difficulties and to overcome all the restraints, all the legal issues, needs the political will. And that's you, as a night mayor in Berlin, who experienced all of these obstacles. There's parties having different interests, political parties having different interests from different kinds of voters they act for. But in the end, if you ask someone out there in the Munich politician scene who doesn't want a nightlife, no one says no. All of them want a nightlife. So they have to bear the consequences, and that means talk to the owners, give them a perspective in the interim period between tearing down their buildings and reconstructing something new. That's at least a 10 years period, and give them a perspective what they can do with the area. Because if the Werksviertel wouldn't have been a night spot, no one would have recognized that there's a Werksviertel. It's been an old potato factory. No one ever cared about that place. Only because it was the night quarter of Munich for, I think, 15 to 20 years, and it still is, in another way. That was the reason to become prominent, to become a quarter everybody was talking about. So they have something which they get off the nightlife, and that's important for them to motivate them to co-work with the city, with the citizens, with the politicians. And if everyone is pulling on the same side, something will develop.
One of the challenges I faced after doing my protest for many years, that once I had the attention, there was not really a way of engaging with the politicians or with the real estate industry besides having like warm words, because it's really not easy to bring across your point when you don't have the right data. And the only data that we had at the time were economic data, which basically show who makes the most money and who employs the most people, but not who are these innovators, who are the people that are doing things in niches, in a gray zone, but really attracting or make the night attractive in a specific local way. Because if you would think only about the numbers, we probably have a city of casinos, because casinos make most of the money and probably pay well. So the question was, what kind of metrics do we need, what kind of data do we need to actually make a good argument toward the real estate developers? And we came up with a solution together with a Harvard professor. It's called the creative footprint. And the question is, what do you think needs to be done in Munich to get good data and understand really what the needs are of those creative communities, of those upcoming emerging artists, promoters, owners of venues, to make Munich like it's been documented here again?
You would say make Munich great again. That's another saying from another person.
Not saying that.
But to be honest,
you said that.
We collected that kind of data on the basis of the Oktoberfest. Let's just remember that 6 years period. And everyone was asking, how much money do you earn as a city with the Oktoberfest? So it's a 1.5 billion euros, which is spent on the occasion of the Oktoberfest in 16 days. 1.5 billion euros in 16 days. So we know as a city how to collect the data, how to ask people, which questions to ask. What is the reason for you to be in Munich? Is the reason some beer garden? Is the reason the nightlife? Is the reason the combination of beer garden, nightlife, high culture and subculture? And that is the case. Some 60-70% of the people we asked were saying it's the combination of getting to a beer garden in the summertime, afterwards getting to a club in the morning, having breakfast at some fancy restaurant in the English garden. It's the combination of all. But the one doesn't exist without the other. So for different stages in your personal life, for different ages in your personal life, it's different things you need. But to stay in the city, as you asked, what makes you stay in a city? It's the combination. And the nightlife, in all its dimensions, in all its facets, is something you have to take care about. Not in the meaning of subsidies. Because we don't have the money to have subsidies, but in the meaning of have a few in it. And then it comes down to figures and numbers. Figures and numbers means how much money does the nightlife earn by itself, and how much money does it make in an indirect way? How much money does it make by attracting people to a city which wouldn't have come if we were talking about casino cities like Macau and some more or less fancy Chinese or whatever cities in the world. I wouldn't move in a city because of casinos. But you move in a city because of some opera houses, some good restaurants, some fancy nightclubs. You can spend a decent time in a safe environment, in a vibrant environment, and that's the case in Munich.
And what would be your solution that the city marketing is supporting and the Ordnungsamt is closing the venues down? Because I think that kind of contradiction we have all over the world, and I don't see a solution besides the mayor take certain things closer to the mayor's office.
I remember back the year 22, some of you do either, it was COVID. And back in that COVID times, we had to answer the question in late January, February, March, do we reopen the Oktoberfest for 22 or not? Because the decision needs to be taken latest June in the year to make it happen or to stop it. And there was a huge discussion. And I remember emails I got saying, you are the chief of a super spreading event. You want to kill thousands of people and you want to make people dead. I got emails I sent to the police just saying, we know where you live and we know you have children and we know how to say thank you for killing thousands of people. Real threat, real threat. You have to stand that as a politician. If you don't stand that, you don't need to be a politician. And you have to be consequent in your argumentation and always said, I want to reopen not only the Oktoberfest, I want to reopen the society and coming back to the clubs. Of course, it needs politicians who really think about the consequences in the meaning of, if I open a club scenery in a certain area, which it didn't exist before, there is some obstacles. There is some people living there who don't want that. And I have to be stable on that. I have to really want it. I have to bear a lot of emails saying you are the greatest asshole I ever seen, because now in 1 in the morning, where formerly I get to sleep, now I hear the club scenery. And of course it means a leveling between being loud and having people who want to sleep. It's not the one or the other. It's not binary. It's not digital. It's not 0 and 1. It's something in between. It's not black and white. It's some gray areas. But you need to really want that, because if, as a politician, you get some wind in your face to take that picture, and you just fall down, that's not good. And acting as a mayor of a city, you need to level your administration to not everything has a consequence, which doesn't mean that it needs to be illegal. But if someone is misbehaving as an owner of a club in the meaning of it's too loud, they left the doors open in the nighttime, it doesn't need to be, you don't need to punish them with thousands of euros. Talk to them, make them aware of the consequences for their neighbors, for their club. What I want to say about that is, don't be more precise than it needs to be. I remember Munich back in the 90s, where the same administration just was acting more let the people live and let them exist.
Laissez-faire.
Yeah, laissez-faire. In Germany, we say leben und leben lassen. That's the Munich kind of living. Let the others live too. And that needs someone on the top of a city's authority who is of the same opinion and doesn't punish its own employees if they do nothing.
And who stood at the door of a club for 2 years. Which is also...
It didn't do any damage to me. It made...
No, you get an understanding, and you saw... I also, because we are at DLD, I also want to mention that there is a lot of technology that can be helpful. A lot of cities now work with noise-canceling sound systems. It costs money, but I think there are solutions that need to be explored. And also mentioning one company from Munich, which is called Safe Now, which I think the city also works with. We're doing pilots in different cities in the world, adapting this technology, Safe Now from Munich, and working in making certain nightlife districts safer by collaborating. Because the idea that the responsibility of the night ends at my door and everything which is outside on a square on the street is also, I think, not the right approach. So it is about collaborating. The night is about coming together, working together, collaborating. But then you also don't want to be in touch with the city only with enforcement. You also want to have service and want to work and collaborate in a nice way. Maybe come to the end. We're already talking longer than we should. What would be your hope if you're not making it a night camp, unfortunately, tonight, but what would be something that I could take to stage tonight to the Legal Club and as a future vision? What is something that you would like to give to the promoters and club owners that we're going to meet tonight?
Public administration is called administration, but if you want to foster the night economy, you can't administrate it. You have to create it, and that's the huge difference. A lot of people in the administration who work there, who are on the top of it, origin from the administration. They didn't ever do anything else, and they hardly accept someone like you who does want to create, who comes from another perspective, and to change the perspective, and to see the outcome in the end, to see that there could be a Biergarten in Munich or something like that. That's what you have to explain to politicians. You were kind of lobbyist for the nighttime economy, and when we had our first conversation this morning, I was really happy that we were talking about nighttime economy, because that's a key for politicians to say it's not only about social, it's not only about culture, it's about economy. It's the economy, stupid. That's what you have to tell politicians, that there is an outcome, that there is a financial outcome for a city like Munich, like a lot of other cities in Germany, who are really suffering from a bad financial situation, if you call it like that. So you do not only do good to the people, to the clubs, if you create and not just administrate the night time, but you also do something good for your finances. So there's only some good outcome, but you have to do it. Not only talk about it, but create it. Make the administration smoother. Make it less like a police, but more like a
service.
Like a service, yeah.
Good. That's probably a bit too long. I take the Biergarten to Munich. That's gonna tell everyone tonight, and we're working on that. Looking forward to it. Thanks for your open conversation, and thanks for
Thanks for listening.